last night was the chipping away and downfall of Jordan's image based on what was going on in, I guess, his world of golf and his world of, you see, competitiveness. And I might get the wrath of people who know people who have a gambling problem when I say this, is I never thought Jordan had a gambling problem. I thought he had a gambling addiction. I never thought he had a gambling problem. Now, what's the difference? He pointed out what the difference is that I'm not selling my house. I'm not losing my marriage. I'm not losing my kids, which is why Stern didn't hit him hard when he went on the stand in a criminal case and admitted a large $50,000 plus check that had his name in the signature line to somebody who was on trial was in fact to pay off a gambling debt as opposed to a loan, which is what he said publicly. He said to avoid the embarrassment. And David Stern basically said, we looked into it. Yep. We saw how much he was gambling relative to his net worth, and we thought, not that big of a deal. Right. And next week, when he does, in fact, go off to baseball, and I imagine they will dive deeper into the long-standing rumor that Jordan had to leave the game because of a gambling problem that Stern was not going to hit him for publicly. Let's come up with some sort of facade that you could see how the director and Jason Hare and the way that they're telling the story and what this is leading to, what very well could have been the case at the time and does appear to be the case. Jordan was toast. Jordan was toast in terms of getting beaten up for his gambling, having to answer for it, being in the public eye for as long as he was in the public eye as a winner and having to keep winning and the issues and the pressures of that. And always having people around him pulling at him that he never had a moment for himself. And you could sit there and say, okay, play a little violin. He's got billions of dollars in the bank. And that's the trade-off. Fine, you could say that. And you could say, and you could also say, too, that this is still a cover for something that you believe happened in a conspiratorial fashion that got him to quit basketball at the height of his fame and game to go play baseball where he hit 200. But there were a couple of instances of behind the scenes, and I asked Susie this. Susie asks me this half the time as we're watching this together, my wife, and maybe you know the answer to this. Where does all this footage come from, and why has this been sitting on a shelf, and who had it?
The old
has
stuff?
That been yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because behind the scenes, I guess after he won, I think, was it against Phoenix? I lost track. If it was either against Phoenix for the third or it was against Portland for the second. Mm. But there he is with an earbud in his ear, clearly having to just done a remote interview.
Right.
And he says to somebody, can you all just give me like just 5 minutes just to be with myself, just to chill out? And somebody even said, well, do you want to call your wife first? And then he did take a phone to call his wife. But that behind the scenes moment is just like, can you just give me a minute? Like he never gets a minute. He never had a minute. And that if you live your life like that, imagine what that's like. And then there was another moment where he's, I guess, what looked like to be in some sort of beautiful Ritz-Carlton sitting area or one of those suites that he would no doubt have. And he let the camera crew in. This is The Last Dance, right?
Yeah, this was in the final season.
In the final season.
Just seems
where again, I'm sitting here the entire time putting myself in the shoes of somebody now who knows how difficult it is to keep a dynastic team together. And also the shoes of who I was at the time. And the last two episodes did not have me with hair, although Chris Fowler with the glorious,
he looks
glorious part.
Looks exactly the same,
oh my
right?
God.
Hasn't aged much?
I texted him, I took a snapshot of took a snapshot of him from the 93 Sports Center world and sent it to him just with the word glorious. And he wrote back calling himself a baby-faced assassin.
Wow.
I love it. But back in the time when I was covering this team for SportsCenter, saying, how the hell are they not going to keep these together? How many times have I said this in this chair?
Yeah.
How could they not have kept this team together? How could they not have given Jordan the Godfather offer, and the same thing to Pippen, and Jerry Krause being told by Reinsdorf, swallow your pride and work with Phil? How could they not do that? And Jordan,
I think we're starting to see
behind the scenes in this remarkable piece of video I have never seen before until last night, saying that he's done, that living this life, and people are wondering, am I finished or am I not? He goes, I forget the exact phrasing, but I am absolutely convinced this is over. I can't live this life anymore.
Just imagine
At
being
age
the
35
most famous person in the world.
for 14 years.
Just the burden that must just weigh you down constantly.
And then just again, the difference between a competitor, a gambling addiction and a gambling problem. I think he was addicted to gambling.
No, competition, like he said.
Addicted to competition, right? And because he was just wired in a way where he couldn't lose at anything. But that's what made him Michael Jordan. That's why you're sitting here, and that's why I'm saying the only person who's come close to Jordan was Kobe, who we saw the outset of episode 5, the first one of last night, the NBA All-Star game in New York City.
That was awesome.
It was Jordan's last NBA All-Star game, and it happened to be in Madison Square Garden, where we saw so many great moments of his career. And by the way, I was steeling myself for the Charles Smith moment.
Well, it came.
And it happened last night.
Oh.
And in episode 6, in the second episode last night, and it was still difficult to watch.
Yeah.
It was like watching a horror movie. I had to watch it through my fingertips. Like, how the hell did he not get that ball in the basket? They had Jordan right where they wanted him, which was fine. We'll beat you here. All we got to do is hold serve on Madison Square Garden, and you're out. No three-peat, no nothing. We're going to stick it right where it hurts the most. When you want to get the differentiator, what is that? David Aldridge said that the third in a row was the differentiator between him and Isaiah and him and Magic.
1-2 in a row, yeah.
And it just, oh God, it happened. And I remember at the time just seeing all the shots of the shocked New Yorkers. That was me too. Couldn't believe Charles Smith was supposed to be the difference maker. That was our Horace Grant to be added to Starks and Ewing.
Team.
All right, I don't even want to go there.
I forgot the Knicks were up 2-0 in that series.
Yeah.
I forgot that part.
But at any rate, to put it all together,
team was good.
the differentiator for Jordan, his competitiveness, obviously. But this one, too. Like, how many people have you seen who would say this today? And the problem is, again, is it comes across as being critical of folks like LeBron, right? Mm-hmm. But how many people would you think today would have the attitude that Jordan had when he sat down for this, recounting what his attitude was taking on the Portland Trailblazers for the second title?
Right.
And how the setup to the finals, and rightfully so, because the reason why the Blazers passed on him in the draft was because they already had Drexler. Right?
Same position.
Correct. That's what's the idea.
Right.
But him saying of Clyde Drexler, the dream team teammate to be Clyde Drexler, all-time great in many ways.
The 50 greatest players.
Clyde Drexler.
Yeah.
That the comparisons he was hearing of Clyde Drexler to him and vice versa irritated him. It irritated him. I saw that and I'm like, holy crap. That's your reminder to this generation of the difference between this guy and every other human being who laces it up. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.